Welcome to part 10 of the Ultimate Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg, where we explore dark and fascinating mysteries. In this series, we deep dive unsolved mysteries, including true crime, mysterious disappearances, myths and legends, strange events, internet mysteries, and more. Natalie Wood. Natalie Wood, the acclaimed American actress, tragically drowned on November 29, 1981, under circumstances that have led to decades of speculation and investigation. Born on July 20th, 1938, in San Francisco, California, Wood's career in Hollywood began at the tender age of 4, eventually earning her 3 Academy Award nominations before she turned 25. Her life, marked by cinematic success, was intertwined with personal turmoil, including a complex relationship with her husband, Robert Wagner, with whom she married twice. On the night preceding her death, Wood was aboard the Splendor, a yacht, with Wagner, Christopher Walken, and the boat's captain, Dennis Davern. The group had been spending the Thanksgiving weekend near Santa Catalina Island. Virtually everything about Natalie Wood's drowning is unknown, aside from the fact of the drowning itself. Per the initial story from Robert Wagner, Wood and him had not had any argument on the night in question, and nothing was unusual about the night of her disappearance. However, Wagner subsequently admitted in a memoir that there had been an argument before she disappeared. Initially ruled as an accidental drowning, the case was reopened in 2011, with Robert being named a person of interest. This decision came after years of changing testimonies and emerging details that cast doubt on the circumstances surrounding Wood's death. Notably, the captain later admitted to withholding crucial information during the initial investigation and suggested that Robert was responsible for Wood's demise. The night of Wood's death was reportedly fraught with tension and arguments, particularly over a perceived flirtation between Walken and Wood. This tension culminated in a heated argument on the yacht, after which Wood was found missing. In 2012, the death certificate was changed to indicate that her cause of death was drowning and other undetermined factors. However, this does not necessarily mean foul play. Robert was officially named a person of interest by the police in February 2018. However, it is extremely important to stress that person of interest is not the same as a suspect. A person of interest is simply a person potentially connected in some way to a crime or potential crime. Robert has not been named as a suspect at this time. Further, and I feel the need to clarify this as a fan of Christopher Walken, Christopher Walken has fully cooperated with the police investigation throughout. He has never been considered a suspect or a person of interest in relation to any potential crime which was committed. I feel that at this stage we will never have an absolute and definitive answer as to what happened to Natalie Wood. The Lake Bodom Slayings. In the early hours of June 5, 1960, a chilling event unfolded at Lake Bodom, near Espoo, Finland. 4 teenagers, Mila Irmeli Björklund, Anja Maki, Seppo Antero Boisman, and Niels Wilhelm Gustafsson, embarked on a camping trip that ended tragically. The group set up their tent along the tranquil shores of Lake Bodom, expecting a night of camaraderie and outdoor adventure. However, their peaceful retreat turned into a nightmare when, between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., an assailant attacked, resulting in the deaths of Björklund, Maki, and Boisman. They were subjected to a brutal assault involving stabbing and bludgeoning, while Gustafsson, the sole survivor, was found barely alive with serious injuries and fractured facial bones. Early reports suggested a sighting of a mysterious figure, described as a blond man, seen leaving the campsite around the time of the incident. The crime scene discovered by a passerby later that morning revealed an extremely disturbing scene. The victim's tent was collapsed, with evidence of the violence that had occurred spilling out onto the lakeshore. The investigation into the incident was marred by significant oversights from the outset, a fact that would become even more critical decades later. Critical errors, such as the failure to secure the crime scene promptly and the mishandling of potential evidence, hampered the police's efforts to identify the perpetrator. The mysterious nature of the crime, combined with these investigative missteps, led to widespread speculation and numerous theories about the identity of the assailant. Over the years, several suspects have emerged, each with their own compelling, yet ultimately inconclusive connections to the case. Among them were Carl Valdemar Gilstrom, a local kiosk owner known for his animosity towards campers, and Hans Assmann, who exhibited suspicious behavior and was seen with blood-stained clothes shortly after the incident. Also, a few facts I should mention now about Hans. He claimed he was in Germany at the time of the slayings. The Finnish police initially concluded that his alibi was accurate and that he was in Germany and therefore was not a suspect, or even a person of interest. It was later revealed that he attended a hospital in Helsinki with a bloody shirt on June 6th, the day following the slayings. Further, he was a suspect in no less than 5 investigations into slayings and confessed to at least one on his deathbed. Keep these facts in mind, because something insane is going to happen nearly 45 years after the fact. Despite various leads and extensive investigations, no conclusive evidence was found to definitively link any suspect to the crime. In a twist over 4 decades later, the lone survivor, Gustafsson, was arrested and charged with the slayings, based on allegedly conclusive forensic evidence. Gustafsson had never been named as a suspect, or even a person of interest before this time. The prosecution suggested that a drunken altercation between Gustafsson and his friends led to the tragic events. The forensic evidence against him centered around several key pieces of evidence that, according to the prosecution's theory of the case, implicated him in the tragic events of 1960. According to the prosecution, one of the most compelling pieces of evidence was the discovery of the victim's blood on Gustafsson's shoes. Additionally, the prosecution claimed that these shoes were found hidden away from the crime scene, suggesting a possible attempt to conceal his involvement. Another piece of evidence that the prosecutors claimed worked against Gustafsson was the nature and extent of his injuries compared to those of the deceased. Prosecutors argued that the pattern of Gustafsson's injuries could suggest a scenario in which he engaged in a confrontation with his friends, leading to a deadly escalation. According to their theory of the case, the absence of Gustafsson's blood on the shoes was also seen as significant. In the prosecution's interpretation, this suggested that his injuries occurred after the slayings were committed, possibly in an attempt to fabricate a narrative of being another victim. Despite this evidence, the court ultimately found it insufficient for a conviction. The acquittal was based on several factors. Firstly, the forensic evidence, while suggestive, was not conclusive. It could not irrefutably prove Gustafsson's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The prosecution's interpretation of the bloodstains and injury patterns was challenged by the defense, which argued that the evidence could be interpreted in multiple ways. Additionally, the defense highlighted the significant time gap between the incident and Gustafsson's trial. Numerous key witnesses and individuals involved in the investigation had long since passed away. Further, the incompetent nature of the investigation itself was strongly attacked by the defense. The court also considered the lack of a clear motive and the possibility of external involvement. Ultimately, the court decided that the evidence presented did not meet the stringent standards required for a criminal conviction, and he was acquitted. In my view, the trial against Gustafsson over 4 decades after the incident raised significant concerns about the viability of pursuing a conviction. One critical argument against proceeding with the trial was the extensive time lapse between the incident in 1960 and the trial in 2005. Over such a long period, evidence can degrade, witness memories fade, and the integrity of forensic analysis can be compromised. This makes it extremely challenging to establish facts with the required level of certainty for a criminal conviction. Moreover, the initial investigation's mishandling made pursuing this case extremely questionable. The police failed to secure the crime scene, resulting in the loss and contamination of evidence. Additionally, there was no unequivocal evidence against Gustafsson, and the case was speculation glued together with forensic science based on evidence that wasn't handled properly. This combination of factors suggests that the trial against Gustafsson may have been more about seeking closure for a notorious, unsolved case that has dogged the Finnish police, rather than about the likelihood of securing a conviction based on robust, incontrovertible evidence. As a result of the trial, he was awarded 45,000 euros for this ordeal, which was paid to him by Finland. Given the extreme nature of the mental suffering that Gustafsson must have gone through as a result of what I feel comfortable calling a massive miscarriage of justice, with no possibility of conviction, 45,000 euros seems insufficient. Anyway, let me know in the comments below who you think did it. I have a feeling we're all thinking the same thing. The Skid Row Stabber. In the late 1970s, the streets of downtown Los Angeles' Skid Row became the hunting ground for an elusive figure responsible for the brutal end of 11 homeless men. The assailant, dubbed the Skid Row Stabber, preyed on the vulnerable inhabitants of an area already marred by hardship and neglect. The narrative of the Skid Row Stabber is intertwined with the wrongful conviction of Bobby Joe Maxwell, a man initially accused of these heinous acts. Arrested in April 1979, Maxwell's apartment yielded items that prosecutors used to cast him as a Satanist, a narrative that, despite its sensationalism, lacked concrete evidence directly linking him to the crimes. The trial, delayed until 1984, heavily relied on the testimony of Sidney Storch, a jailhouse snitch with a history of falsehoods, who claimed Maxwell confessed to the crimes to obtain souls for Satan. Despite the shaky foundation of Storch's claims, Maxwell was convicted for 2 of the murders and sentenced to life without parole. The case against Maxwell began to unravel years later, revealing a judicial process compromised by unreliable testimonies and lack of direct evidence. The pivotal moment came when an appellate court recognized the flaws in the prosecution's case, particularly the dubious credibility of Storch and the absence of material evidence tying Maxwell to the crimes. This led to Maxwell's convictions being overturned in 2010, a decision underscored by further judicial scrutiny that eventually saw all charges against him dropped in 2018. Unfortunately for Maxwell, he had suffered a heart attack which left him in a coma, and never woke from the coma to see that his name had been cleared. Given Maxwell's exoneration, ultimately, it appears highly unlikely that this case will ever be solved, and no suspects exist at present. Ardenwald axe slayings. In the early hours of June 9, 1911, a tragic event unfolded in Ardenwald, Oregon. The Hill family, consisting of William Hill, his wife Ruth, and Ruth's 2 children from a previous marriage, Philip and Dorothy, were found lifeless in their home. Each had been subjected to a fatal assault with an axe, a detail that not only horrifies, but puzzles to this day. Ardenwald, at the time a peaceful community adjacent to Portland, Oregon, became the center of a mystery that has baffled law enforcement. The Hill family, by all accounts, led a quiet life, making the attack on them all the more perplexing. The investigation into their deaths unveiled more questions than answers, leading to a multitude of theories about who could have committed such a heinous act. One prevailing theory suggests a possible connection to a series of similar incidents occurring across the United States during the early 20th century. Known as the man from the train, this theory posits that a transient individual, traveling by rail, could be responsible for this and other similar acts. This theory is bolstered by the modus operandi observed in the Ardenwald case, notably the use of an axe, which was a common element in several other unsolved cases during that period. However, despite its compelling, or perhaps alluring narrative, conclusive evidence linking these cases remains elusive. Another line of inquiry points to local suspects, individuals known to the community, or having some connection to the Hill family. Yet despite the investigation's focus on several persons of interest, none could be definitively linked to the crime. Further, the lack of forensic technology at the time severely hampered the ability of investigators to gather the kind of evidence needed to secure a conviction or to definitively identify a suspect. Christy Krebs. On August 9, 1993, Fort Bragg, California, was shaken by the mysterious disappearance of 22-year-old Christy Krebs. Employed at Round Table Pizza, Krebs left her workplace that evening, never to reach home or be seen again. In the days following, her red Toyota Tercel was discovered abandoned in a shallow creek in McCarricher State Park. The scene was troubling. Inside the car were her wallet, driver's license, and some of her clothing. But there was no sign of Christy herself. Krebs had been known to face emotional difficulties and was under medical treatment at the time of her disappearance. This wasn't the first time she had an incident involving her car. A similar situation occurred in May 1990, leading to a mental breakdown for which she was hospitalized. Despite this, Krebs had been doing well and balancing two jobs while working extensive hours. Theories about what happened to Krebs are varied. Some speculate that she may have become disoriented and wandered off, a theory supported by a previous incident where she was found disoriented after leaving her car. This theory suggests that this incident caused some sort of flashback to that event and triggered a breakdown. Others consider the possibility of foul play, although no concrete evidence has surfaced to support this. 2 days after her disappearance, a woman claimed to have picked up a hitchhiker matching Christie's description in Salt Lake City. Police have described this claim as highly credible. A sighting of a woman matching Krebs's description hitchhiking out of Fort Bragg was noted shortly after her disappearance was reported, but it was never confirmed to be her. The woman called out yelling, "Christy!" and the woman thought to be Christy turned and looked as if responding to her name before retreating into the woods. Another report came from a driver who claimed to have picked up a hitchhiker resembling Krebs in Utah. The details of this hitchhiker's reports match the biography of Christy as well. Despite extensive searches and investigations, Christy Krebs's fate remains unknown. As of at least 2019, Christy Krebs' parents are still actively searching for their daughter and continue to hold out hope that she is still alive. Hey everyone, Jimmy here, the creator behind the Lazy Chill Zone channel. If you're enjoying my content, hit like and subscribe. Also remember to hit that notification bell. My goal is to create the most expansive iceberg series in YouTube history, and I want you along for the ride. Also, consider signing up for a YouTube membership, joining the Patreon, and joining the Discord. There's also Lazy Chill Zone merch available now. Check out the shop link on the video. The 2016 clown hysteria. In 2016, a peculiar and unsettling wave of hysteria swept across the United States and beyond, capturing the attention and escalating fears of communities worldwide. This phenomenon, known as the 2016 clown scare, was marked by numerous reports of individuals donning creepy clown costumes and engaging in bizarre and intimidating behaviors. Initially, clown sightings broke out in Green Bay, Wisconsin, at the start of August 2016. However, they failed to capture the national attention at the time. The clown scare began to go viral in late August 2016 in Greenville County, South Carolina, where residents reported seeing individuals in clown costumes attempting to lure children. This incident marked the inception of a series of sightings that would rapidly spread across the entire United States. However, the phenomenon was not confined to the United States. Reports soon emerged from Canada, Australia, and the United Kingdom, highlighting its global reach. The sightings sparked widespread fear and anxiety, leading to significant social and economic repercussions. Professional clowns and related businesses experienced a decline as the public's perception of clowns shifted from harmless, though creepy entertainers to legitimate potential threats. The World Clown Association, yes, it actually exists, and individual clowns voiced their concerns, emphasizing that the actions of a few deranged clowns were damaging the clearly stellar reputation that clowns had enjoyed previously. Educational institutions and retail stores took measures to mitigate fear, with several schools imposing bans on clown costumes and major retailers like Target removing clown masks from their shelves. The scare even influenced corporate decisions, prompting McDonald's to reduce the visibility of its iconic mascot, Ronald McDonald, during the height of the incidents. The 2016 clown scare is a textbook example of a social panic or even a mass psychogenic illness, embodying the characteristics of exaggerated fear and anxiety among a large group of people. Such phenomena are not new, and the topic has been covered extensively in this series at this time. However, other theories have been proposed. Some speculate that the phenomenon was part of a viral marketing campaign for horror movies or entertainment purposes, leveraging the public's fear to gain attention ahead of movie releases or promotions. Under this theory, when the campaign got out of hand, the campaign itself was quietly retired, though the clowns persisted. Another theory suggests that the sightings were a form of social experiment or guerrilla art, aiming to provoke public reaction and spark discourse on societal fears, the influence of social media, and the concept of safety in public spaces. Others propose that the majority of the clowns cited were just harmless, opportunistic pranksters. Proponents of this theory point to the lack of victims of clowns emerging around this time. Omar Alexander Cardenas. Omar Alexander Cardenas is one of the FBI's current 10 most wanted fugitives. Born on March 23, 1995, Cardenas is accused of a grave act that occurred on August 15, 2019, outside the Hair Icon barbershop in the Sylmar neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. The incident resulted in the death of Jabali Dumas, a 46-year-old man. It's reported that Dumas was shot 9 times from approximately 30 feet away, with the fatal shot striking him in the head, leading to his demise after a 4-day battle for survival in the hospital. The alleged act led to Cardenas being charged with his slaying in April of 2020, and subsequently with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution in September of 2021. On July 20th, 2022, he was added to the FBI's top 10 most wanted list, with a reward of $100,000 for information directly leading to his arrest. The complexity of this case is heightened by the belief that Cardenas may have fled to Mexico, where he has familial connections. Alternative theories suggest that he could still be in Southern California. The authorities suspect that he could be supporting himself by working in the construction industry, but this isn't known for certain. The Battle of Los Angeles. In the waning hours of February 24, 1942, just months after the United States entered World War II, an event occurred that came to be known as the Battle of Los Angeles. This event, characterized by a massive anti-aircraft artillery barrage, has since been steeped in mystery, speculation, and a variety of eyewitness accounts. The sequence of events began on the evening of February 24th, when the U.S. Office of Naval Intelligence issued a warning of a potential attack on California. This led to heightened alertness among the military and civilian populations. This state of alert escalated into action in the pre-dawn hours of the next day, when radar detected an unidentified object approximately 120 miles off the Los Angeles coast. Air raid sirens wailed, a total blackout was ordered, and planes were mobilized as the city prepared for a presumed enemy attack. The 37th Coast Artillery Brigade commenced firing into the night sky, unleashing more than 1,400 anti-aircraft shells at the detected object, which reports varied in description from bell-shaped to oblong or round. Despite the extensive barrage, no enemy aircraft were confirmed shot down, and the all-clear was given later that morning. The incident resulted in several civilian casualties, all due to indirect causes such as car accidents and heart attacks induced by the chaos. In the immediate aftermath, conflicting reports and explanations surfaced. Secretary of the Navy Frank Knox quickly dismissed the event as a false alarm attributed to war nerves, a sentiment echoed by subsequent military statements suggesting the possibility of psychological warfare by enemy agents. However, skepticism and theories of a cover-up proliferated among the public and the press, fueled by speculative reports of invading airplanes and secret enemy bases. Years after the war, the Japanese government confirmed that it had not dispatched planes over Los Angeles during the conflict, further mystifying the source of the initial radar detection. In 1983, the U.S. Office of Air Force History posited that meteorological balloons were the cause of the incident. These balloons were released to gauge wind conditions and were possibly carrying lights and equipped with reflective surfaces. This explanation, while plausible, has not fully quenched the thirst for answers, leaving room for alternative theories involving government conspiracies and extraterrestrial activity. Importantly, the famous photograph of a craft being spotted by searchlights was actually slightly doctored by a newspaper to portray a much more vivid craft. In my view, there's a rational explanation behind this incident. I believe this represents an instance of mass psychogenic illness, characterized by the collective manifestation of psychological stress in a group without an identifiable physical cause. Amid World War II, heightened anxiety and fear of enemy attack were pervasive among the American public, especially following the recent attack on Pearl Harbor. Americans, especially those living on the West Coast, lived in constant fear that the Japanese would launch another surprise attack. The collective stress and anxiety of the moment was fueled by war nerves. Further, a key piece of evidence is left out of most narratives of this story I've read, which I believe is the key to the mass hysteria response. On February 23, 1942, just a day prior to the Battle of Los Angeles, the United States mainland was attacked by Japanese forces. A Japanese submarine emerged off the coast of Santa Barbara and bombarded a refinery, setting off a panic. Simply put, the populace of Los Angeles were ripe for the spread of a social contagion, and therefore, when an unidentified object was noted, a blackout ensued, terror spread amongst the populace, leading to irrational acts. That said, I'm very open-minded about this unsolved mystery. Let me know your theory about the Battle of Los Angeles in the comments below. Licorice McKechnie. The whereabouts of Licorice McKechnie, a Scottish musician once a part of the folk band, the Incredible String Band, are a complete mystery. Born Christina McKechnie on October 2, 1945, in Edinburgh, Scotland, she emerged onto the folk music scene with her poetic talent and soon found herself intertwined with the musical and cultural revolutions of the 1960s. McKechnie became a key figure in the Incredible String Band, contributing as a singer and songwriter between 1968 and 1972, including a performance at the iconic Woodstock Festival in 1969. While the band was considered innovative, which captivated some of the era's most influential figures, their moment in the limelight at Woodstock did not translate into mainstream success. After leaving the band in 1972 and the eventual dissolution of the Incredible String Band, McKechnie gradually faded from public life. Her post-band life remains largely a mystery, marked by sporadic sightings and life events. She married musician Brian Lambert, with whom she later divorced in the early 1980s. Reports suggest she lived in various locations, including Los Angeles, Arizona, and Sacramento, with the last confirmed contact with her family in 1990. However, the last time she was actually seen by her family in person was 1986. The last confirmed sighting of McKechnie comes from 1987, when she was hitchhiking across Arizona. This detail marks the beginning of her disappearance, leading to years of speculation and investigation by both family members and fans. Theories about McKechnie's disappearance are varied and include foul play, a new identity, or a retreat from public life. Some believe that her propensity for hitchhiking may have led to her having been picked up by an individual with ill intent towards her. However, there is no direct evidence whatsoever for this theory. My hope is that she's still out there, living her best life. Licorice McKechnie was never a major public figure by any means, and only had modest success in the music industry. If she wanted to completely move away from that scene, she could have done so easily. Running counter to this theory is the fact that her family hasn't heard from her from 1990 onwards. However, I do not necessarily think this indicates that she met with foul play, or that she died of other causes circa the 90s. We simply don't have the evidence to suggest what McKechnie's relationship with her family was like. Perhaps the relationship was not good, and she simply chose to stop communicating with them. This, of course, is pure speculation on my part, but given the evidentiary situation in this disappearance, virtually everything about this disappearance is speculative, including whether a quote-unquote disappearance even took place. The disappearance of Ruslan Labazanov. Ruslan Labazanov, a notable figure in Chechnya in the 1990s, disappeared under mysterious circumstances on June 1, 1996. Labazanov was born in 1967 in Kazakhstan to a Chechen family exiled under Stalin. Labazanov's life was a tumultuous journey marked by his transition from a Soviet Red Army physical training instructor to a Chechen mob boss and ultimately a warlord. His early life was notable for his expertise in Eastern martial arts and a violent rise in the criminal underworld. This journey took a significant turn in 1990 when he was convicted of a serious crime and sentenced to death, only to escape prison in 1991 amidst the chaos of a political coup. Labazanov's foray into Chechen politics began in 1992 and led to him holding important positions in Chechnya. However, due to disagreements with the government, Labazanov founded his own paramilitary outfit, becoming a self-styled Chechen Robin Hood. He claimed to be defending the people against what he viewed as the oppressive authorities. His forces, composed mainly of former convicts, engaged in various clashes, highlighting the volatile nature of Chechen politics in that time. Labazanov was able to secure an alliance with Russian federal forces and engaged in a civil war-style campaign against the Chechen government. The circumstances of Labazanov's disappearance remain a mystery. Reports suggest he was slain alongside a bodyguard in Tolstoy Yurt, a victim of either internal betrayal or blood vengeance. Theories about his demise range from being targeted by his own men to being killed in retribution by the relatives of a slain police officer. Despite various speculations, the exact details of his disappearance are unknown, leaving a lingering question mark over his fate. Odor of sanctity. The phenomenon known as the odor of sanctity has intrigued both believers and scholars for centuries. Rooted in Christian tradition, particularly within the Catholic Church, it refers to a sweet fragrance that is said to emanate from the bodies of saints, either during their lives or after their deaths. This scent, often compared to flowers, signifies a person's holiness and divine favor. Historically, the odor of sanctity first gained prominence in the Middle Ages. During this period, many saints were canonized based on the acclamation of the faithful. In the absence of detailed records, personal testimonials about a deceased individual's sanctity often included accounts of miraculous scents at the time of death. These accounts played a crucial role in the local ecclesiastical authorities' decision to canonize a saint, allowing for public veneration and intercession requests. Scientifically, some have speculated that the odor of sanctity could be attributed to natural causes, such as the presence of acetone or acetoacetic acid, which are byproducts of ketosis from fasting. This theory suggests a possible explanation for the sweet smell associated with fasting saints, linking physical deprivation to a perceived sign of spiritual purity. Notable examples throughout history include Saint Teresa of Avila and Saint Thérèse de Lisieux, both of whom were reported to have emitted heavenly scents upon their deaths. These occurrences were seen as tangible signs of their closeness to the divine and served as powerful testimonials to their sanctity. In the modern era, while the handling of saints' bodies and relics has become more regulated, the odor of sanctity remains a fascinating aspect of Catholic hagiography and the study of sainthood. The disappearance of Maya Millett. Maya Millett disappeared on January 7, 2021, in Chula Vista, California, in a case that has captivated and concerned many. Maya, a Filipino-American mother of three and a civilian contract specialist for the U.S. Navy, vanished under mysterious circumstances. Her story unfolded against the backdrop of her allegedly troubled marriage with Larry Millett. The case took a pivotal turn when, despite the absence of Maya's body, prosecutors charged Larry with her disappearance, alleging that his motive was tied to Maya's desire to divorce him. This charge was supported by various testimonies during the preliminary hearings, revealing Larry's controlling behavior and desperate attempts to salvage their marriage. This included alleged attempts at reaching out to Maya's family for help and allegedly engaging with occult figures to mend their relationship. The legal proceedings against Larry have seen significant developments, with a judge deeming him competent to stand trial and facing charges of both his wife's disappearance and firearm possession. Search efforts for Maya continue, as her family and authorities seek closure. At present, the legal process is unfolding as against Larry without absolute confirmation that she is deceased, which I imagine will be a major obstacle at trial. Hitoshi Igarashi. In 1991, the literary world was shaken by the tragic slaying of Hitoshi Igarashi, a Japanese scholar and translator of Salman Rushdie's controversial novel, The Satanic Verses. Born on June 10, 1947, Igarashi was a respected figure in the field of Arabic and Persian literature and history. His career saw him translating notable works and teaching comparative Islamic culture at a respected university in Japan. Igarashi's work on the Satanic Verses placed him at the heart of a global controversy. The novel, published in 1988, was accused of blasphemy against Islam, leading Ayatollah Khomeini of Iran to issue a fatwa in 1989, calling for the slaying of its author and those associated with its publication. This declaration set off a series of violent reactions against individuals linked to the book, culminating in Igarashi's untimely death. In 1990, while Igarashi was giving a talk about his translation of the book, he was assaulted while on stage. On July 11, 1991, Igarashi was found deceased in his office at his university. with wounds inflicted by an assailant who remains unidentified to this day. The motives behind this act have been widely speculated upon, with connections drawn to his translation of Rushdie's work. The widely believed assumption is that this case was related to his translation of the Satanic Verses. However, the evidence for this is solely circumstantial at this time. That said, circumstantial evidence does not mean bad evidence, and circumstantial evidence can be extremely strong depending on the circumstances. However, it is of course entirely possible that someone with a personal grudge against Igarashi used the controversy over his translation of the Satanic Verses as a smokescreen to end him. However, this hypothesis is just pure guesswork, with absolutely no evidence whatsoever to support it. The police have neither named any suspects nor named any persons of interest in the case. Despite the passage of time, the case remains unsolved, and the statute of limitations on the case expired in 2006 without any resolution. As an aside, I note that Japan has now abolished the statute of limitations for capital offenses. However, this does not apply retroactively, and the individual responsible for the slaying is free to come forth today. King Arthur. The legend of King Arthur is one of the most enduring myths in Western society. Also, even if you're familiar with the Arthurian legends, you're going to want to stick around for this part. This legendary British leader, said to have lived in the late 5th and early 6th centuries, is central to the medieval literary tradition known as the Matter of Britain. King Arthur is portrayed in Welsh sources as a leader of the post-Roman Britons in battles against the Anglo-Saxon invaders. However, the first mentions of King Arthur come from sources which were written centuries after he was supposed to have lived. Virtually all modern historians are highly skeptical of Arthur's historical existence due to the lack of contemporary evidence, as well as lack of archaeological evidence. The Arthurian legend, enriched over centuries, was significantly shaped by Geoffrey of Monmouth's 12th century work, Histories of the Kings of Britain. Geoffrey's work, which presented Arthur as a king who defeated the Saxons and established a vast kingdom, introduced many elements now integral to the Arthurian story, such as Merlin and Excalibur. Following Geoffrey, further additions were made, adding characters like Lancelot and the quest for the Holy Grail, expanding the legend into what became a significant strand of medieval literature. The Arthurian literature varies widely in themes, events, and characters, with no single canonical version existing. The historicity of King Arthur has been long debated, with basic facts such as whether he was a Roman holdout in Britain or a Welsh leader being up for debate. The debate is split between those who view Arthur as a purely mythological figure and others who speculate about his possible historical basis. In terms of Roman contenders for the title of King Arthur, there are two figures which are most prominent. Ambrosius Aurelianus was a Romano-British military leader who fought against the Anglo-Saxon invaders in the late 5th century. Contemporary accounts praise Ambrosius for his victories against the Saxons, describing him as a wise and just leader who rallied the Britons in a time of despair. His successful defense of Britain make him a plausible candidate for the historical basis for King Arthur. Riothamus was a Romano-Briton leader who crossed the English Channel to Gaul with a large force around 470 AD to assist the crumbling Western Roman Empire. He is described by a 6th century Eastern Roman historian as the quote-unquote King of the Britons. His campaign in Gaul, though ultimately unsuccessful, showcases the kind of martial valor and leadership associated with Arthur. Furthermore, his involvement in continental affairs parallels Arthur's legendary empire, which was said to extend beyond Britain. King Owain, sometimes known as Owain the Bear, was Welsh ruler of the Kingdom of Powys in the early 6th century. Some historians speculate that his warrior status and leadership could have been conflated over generations into the legendary figure of Arthur. His reign in a region rich with Arthurian associations, such as the claim that Camelot was located in modern-day Caerleon, adds to his candidacy. My theory on King Arthur is as follows. The King Arthur we know today is a legendary figure, who is likely a composite of real figures who struggled against the Anglo-Saxons in post-Roman Britain. Further, the lack of surviving contemporary sources for some of the candidates for King Arthur should not be used to dismiss the concept of King Arthur. Rather, this could paradoxically be a point in favor of a quote-unquote King Arthur figure. I suspect that the Anglo-Saxons, having conquered a vast and unruly people, would not have wanted written records of an individual who could serve as a rallying point against their rule. The stories we have of King Arthur thus were forced to be passed down via oral tradition, leading to multiple competing tales of King Arthur. Let me know what your thoughts are on King Arthur and the Arthurian legends in the comments below. And just a quick reminder that if you enjoy my content, remember to like and subscribe. Your likes and subscriptions make it possible for me to devote so much of my time to content creation. The Missing Women of Chillicothe, Ohio. This is a suggestion from subscriber Apartment 13 Podcast 74. Thanks for the suggestion. Between spring 2014 and summer 2015, the small town of Chillicothe, Ohio, was thrust into the national spotlight due to a series of alarming disappearances. Their stories share tragic commonalities, lives marred by addiction, some engaged in paid companionship, and all from backgrounds that left them vulnerable and marginalized. These events unfolded against a backdrop of a community grappling with rampant addiction and its associated ills, including paid companionship and human trafficking. The connection between these elements and the disappearances is a thread running through the investigation, with the affected women known to have intersected lives through their struggles in social circles. In the aftermath of these tragedies, the investigation into the disappearances and deaths has been extensive yet fraught with challenges. Law enforcement has faced criticism for its handling of the cases, particularly regarding the apparent lack of resources assigned to the cases. The arrest of Jason McCrary in connection with Timberly Claytor's death marked a significant, albeit limited, breakthrough in the case. McCrary, a convicted illicit offender, was sentenced for Claytor's slaying. This claim, however, did not lead to a broader resolution of cases, which largely remain unsolved. In my view, there's nothing to suggest that these women met their end by the hand of the same individual. These women were vulnerable and living on the outskirts of society. If you've been watching this series up till now, or are a true crime enthusiast, you know that predators prefer to target vulnerable women. If you're new to true crime, this is because the authorities will virtually never dedicate sufficient resources to these cases. That said, it's entirely possible that these cases are linked, and given the poor investigation by the authorities, the evidence simply isn't there. The Cadborosaurus. This is another recommendation by subscriber and Discord member Y Ultimate. Thanks for this one. Cadborosaurus, often referred to affectionately as Caddy, is a creature shrouded in the mysteries of the Pacific Northwest's folklore. This enigmatic sea serpent, named after Cadboro Bay in Victoria, British Columbia, has captivated the imaginations of locals and cryptozoologists alike. Its legend is rooted in hundreds of sightings that describe it as a serpent-like creature with distinct physical characteristics. The earliest known accounts of a similar creature come from indigenous traditions, which describes a creature similar to Caddy migrating up from Vancouver Island to Alaska. Described by witnesses, Caddy appears as a large serpent-like creature with a horse-like head and long neck, supported by a body featuring vertical coils or humps. It is said to have small, elevating front flippers, with the hind part of its body either featuring a pair of hind flippers or a large, fan-like tail region used for propulsion. This unique combination of features distinguishes Cadborosaurus from known marine animals, sparking debates and investigations into its true nature. Throughout the years, hundreds of sightings have been reported, contributing to a rich tapestry of lore surrounding this creature. The scientific community remains skeptical, attributing many supposed sightings to misidentifications of known animals, such as giant oarfish, conger eels, and decomposing sharks. A carcass discovered in 1937, initially thought to be catty, was later identified as a fetal whale. Similarly, other finds have been explained away as decomposing basking sharks or other marine creatures, illustrating the challenges of distinguishing myth from reality. In 1968 and 1991, fishermen claimed to have caught live juvenile Cadborosauruses. In an excuse worthy of the steamed ham scene from The Simpsons, both fishermen had a good reason why no one could see the catties they caught. They were young ones and they released them. Personally, I have to think that a number of the live sightings of catty are incredibly rare. Giant oarfish. Marcus Adams. This is a recommendation from subscriber Bidrick Bidman 4774. Thanks for the suggestion. In October 2018, the small community of Mount Carmel, Illinois, was shaken by a grim discovery in a local farm field. The skeletal remains of 29-year-old Marcus W. Adams were found, marking the beginning of a perplexing case that continues to intrigue and baffle authorities and locals alike. For nearly 2 years, the identity of the remains was a mystery until the Wabash County Coroner's Office finally confirmed they belonged to Adams. Despite thorough examinations by forensic experts, a definitive cause of death could not be established, leaving many questions unanswered. Unfortunately for internet sleuths, information about the case has been tightly guarded, with officials providing few details, underscoring the complexity and sensitivity of the ongoing investigation. However, the Illinois State Police have indicated that a forensic anthropologist has been enlisted to determine the cause of death. As of early 2024, his COD has not yet been publicly announced. The investigation into this matter continues at present, with very few things to be said for certain about the case. The Lost Cement Mine. The Lost Cement Mine remains one of California's enduring legends from the gold rush era. The tale begins in 1857 when two German prospectors, veering off from their wagon train, stumbled upon a remarkable find in the eastern Sierra Nevada near the Owens River. They discovered a red lava ledge, filled with what appeared to be gold cemented together, leading to the mine's name. Despite the incredible potential of this discovery, the specifics surrounding the mine have faded into the mists of history, leaving behind a story of lost wealth and endless speculation. The ore, described as a rusty reddish cement with a high concentration of gold, was unique enough to spur a frenzy among miners and prospectors when news of its existence leaked. The initial discoverer, succumbing to tuberculosis, passed the secret and a map along to a local doctor who, along with other prospectors, embarked on a relentless but fruitless search for the mine. Over the years, numerous adventurers and treasure hunters have sought the lost cement mine, drawn by the allure of untold riches and the mystery of its exact location. Despite these efforts, the mine remains lost, its whereabouts still a topic of speculation. However, there is a popular and well-accepted theory that the mine was actually discovered in 1879 and clandestinely mined in secret over the course of years. As with a number of lost gold mine stories we've covered, this is always a very distinct possibility. The last thing you want to do when discovering a massive trove of gold in the 19th century is spread that information around. Put simply, the prospecting game attracted some fairly rough around the edges individuals who likely wouldn't have been adverse to the idea of silencing their prospecting rivals. Prester John. The legend of Prester John, a mythical Christian king, spans several centuries, capturing the imagination of medieval Europe. This tale intertwines with historical events, such as the defeat of the Seljuk Turks by the Kara Kitai in the Battle of Katwan in 1141. European crusaders are thought to have misinterpreted this battle as a victory by a Christian king over Muslims, thereby inspiring the legend. Despite the Kara Kitai's official Buddhist beliefs, they had numerous Nestorian Christian vassals, possibly contributing to the development that an Eastern Christian force defeated the Seljuks. The legend gained tangible form with the letter of Prester John, first appearing around 1165. This letter purporting to describe a vast and wondrous kingdom in the East, rich in gold, gems, and exotic animals, ruled by a descendant of the three Magi. This letter, although widely considered a fabrication, was taken seriously at the time, inspiring Pope Alexander III to send an envoy in search of this kingdom in 1177, though unsuccessfully. Interest in Prester John reignited with accounts linking him to Genghis Khan's conquests, as European hopes for a powerful Christian ally in the East persisted. By the early 13th century, the Mongols' rapid expansion under Genghis Khan was seen by some in Europe as the fulfillment of Prester John's promise to aid Christianity. However, like with the Kara Kitai, the Mongols did indeed have Nestorian Christians amongst their horde, which again likely contributed to the myth. Eventually, though, the Mongol forces smashed in the eastern flank of Christendom, putting an end to this wishful thought of Genghis Khan as a Christian king. The search for Prester John led European explorers and missionaries far and wide, from Asia to Africa, especially influencing Portuguese explorations. The persistent belief in Prester John's kingdom motivated these expeditions, although they never found the mythical land. Over time, as geographical knowledge expanded and no evidence of his kingdom was found, the legend of Prester John faded from the realm of possibility. Europeans gradually came to believe that the myth of Prester John was associated with the Christian emperors of Ethiopia. For instance, at the Council of Florence, held between 1431 and 1449, Ethiopian representatives eventually attended. According to the records, the Ethiopian diplomats were quite confused when the Europeans insisted they represented Prester John, rather than their actual emperor, Zara Yacob. Catherine Camelon. The disappearance of Catherine Camelon, a 26-year-old Filipina model, school teacher, and beauty pageant title holder, has captivated the attention of the Philippines since she was last seen on October 12, 2023, in Batangas. Camelon was known for her active communication with her family, making her sudden silence and absence alarming. On the night of her disappearance, she informed her mother she was at a gas station before going missing. Her vehicle, a gray Nissan Juke, was later involved in a distressing incident where witnesses reported seeing a bloodied and unconscious Camelon being transferred to another vehicle by 3 men. The search for Camelon intensified with the Philippine National Police, the PNP, coordinating across stations and units to gather leads. Eyewitnesses played a crucial role, reporting a violent abduction involving a red Honda CR-V. This vehicle was later found abandoned, yielding crucial forensic evidence, including hair strands and blood samples that matched Camelon's parents' DNA. Police Major Alan DeCastro, who had been romantically linked to Camelon, has now been arrested in relation to her disappearance. Despite initial hopes for her safe return, the investigation's findings have led authorities to consider the grim possibility of Camelon's demise. As of February 2024, This case remains unsolved and under active investigation. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Like I said, I plan to make this the most extensive iceberg series ever, so get on board and subscribe. Check out the Patreon, my YouTube membership, and the Discord. Links are in the description. Shout out to my patrons Noah Schubert, Kazakh Cutie, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, and new patron, Jeffer Metcalf. Until next time, stay healthy and peace out.